Are you ready? I arrived for Christmas lunch with my hands full. 2 canvas bags with freshly baked sweetbread, a bottle of wine I had saved all year waiting for this date, and my heart tight with emotion. It was my first Christmas at Kimberly's new house. She had invited me 3 days before, by text message, no call, just a cold text that read, "Mum, come over on the 25th at 12. Family lunch." I replied with a heart emoji. She didn't reply. But it didn't matter. I was going to be there. I rang the doorbell. I heard laughter inside. Hurried footsteps. The door opened and there was Robert, my son-in-law, with a glass in his hand and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He greeted me with a quick kiss on the cheek, barely looking at me. "Come on in, mother-in-law. You're right on time." I walked in. The smell of roasted turkey filled the air. The table was set, crystal glasses, folded napkins, everything gleaming, everything perfect, like they had hired someone to decorate. But when I turned toward the dining room, something in my chest stopped. There were 6 chairs around the table, all occupied. Kimberly was sitting at the head. Robert returned to his seat at the opposite end. And between them, on the sides, were Robert's parents. His father, a big man with a thick moustache. His mother, Alma, a woman with mahogany-coloured dyed hair, lips painted bright red, and a silk blouse that looked brand new. Both looked at me with cold politeness. A short greeting. Nothing more. And then I saw the 2 girls. My granddaughters. Andrea, 7 years old, with a red bow in her hair. Paula, 5, in a white dress that I myself had bought her months ago. They smiled when they saw me. Paula raised her hand to wave at me, but Kimberly stopped her with a quick gesture. "Hold still, Paula. We haven't finished serving yet." I remained standing at the entrance to the dining room. The bags were hanging from my hands. My coat was still on. No one got up. No one offered me a seat. Kimberly looked up at me and smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was an uncomfortable smile, like the one you give someone who showed up unannounced. "Mom, how great that you came." Her voice sounded distant, controlled. I nodded. "I brought sweet bread and wine." She nodded without looking at me. "Thanks. Just leave it in the kitchen." I walked toward the kitchen with my legs trembling. I didn't understand what was happening. I left the bags on the marble counter. I breathed deeply. I returned to the dining room. Kimberly was serving mashed potatoes onto the plates. Robert was carving the turkey. Alma was laughing at something the father-in-law had said. The girls were playing with the napkins. Everything continued without me, as if I were not there. I approached slowly. "Kimberly, where do I sit?" She looked up. She looked at me for a long second, then looked at the table, then looked back at me, and I saw it right there. That shine in her eyes, that discomfort, that decision already made. "Mum, it's just that we organized the table differently this year. There are 6 chairs. There are 6 of us." I blinked. I didn't say anything. She continued, with a softer voice, almost sweet. "It's just that Alma came from very far away. It's been years since she spent Christmas with Robert. So we decided that, well, that this year would be special for them." I felt the floor moving under my feet. "And me." The words came out on their own. Kimberly sighed. She left the spoon on the table. She wiped her hands with the napkin and looked directly into my eyes. "Mum, don't take it personally. It's just that this year we wanted it to be more intimate. Just the people who really matter. You know, priorities." She said that word so naturally. Priorities. as if I were not one, as if my name were not on that invisible list she had made in her head. Robert placed the plate full of turkey in front of Alma. She smiled and caressed his hand. "Thank you, my love." The girls began to eat. The father-in-law made a toast with his glass. "To family, Joe," he said. Everyone raised their glasses, except for me, because I didn't have a glass, because I didn't have a chair, because I didn't have a place. I remained standing there, with my coat on, with empty hands, with a heart broken into such small pieces that I didn't even know how to pick them up. Kimberly looked at me again. "Mum, if you want, you can stay in the living room for a while. We'll talk after lunch." After lunch, as if I were a courtesy visit, as if my presence were a formality. I looked at my granddaughters. Andrea was chewing in silence. Paula was playing with the fork. Neither looked at me, neither asked why Grandma was standing, neither said anything. Alma raised her glass toward Kimberly. "Darling, everything is delicious. Thank you for having us like this. It's been so long since I felt like family." Kimberly smiled. "It's a pleasure, Alma. You are our priority." That word again. Priority. I swallowed. I felt the knot in my throat tighten. I felt the tears rising. But I wasn't going to cry there, not in front of them, not in front of that woman who occupied my place. I took a step back, then another. No one turned around. No one asked. I walked toward the door. I took my purse. I took out my cell phone. And there, standing in the hallway of my daughter's house, I made the most important decision of my life. I opened my online banking. I cancelled the automatic transfer of $1,200 that I sent every month to Kimberly's account. I cancelled the additional credit cards that were in her name. I blocked access to the joint account we opened when she had Andrea. Then I called the bank. "I want to cancel the lease for the apartment at Liberty Avenue number 482. The operator asked if I was sure. Completely sure. I hung up. I breathed. I looked toward the dining room. They were still eating, still laughing, still without me. I opened the door. I left. I closed it slowly, without noise, without drama, without shouting, because I wasn't going to beg them for a seat at that table, because I wasn't going to humiliate myself by asking them to see me, because if I wasn't a priority for them, they wouldn't be a priority for me either. I walked down the cold street. The Christmas lights shone on the houses. Families were eating together. Children were laughing. I walked alone. But for the first time in years, I walked with my back straight. They didn't know it yet. But I had just closed all the doors that kept their life running, and what would come next was going to make them run after me. But by then, I wouldn't be waiting anymore. I walked 6 blocks before realizing I was trembling. It wasn't from the cold. It was from everything that had just happened, from everything I had kept silent for years. I sat down on a bench in front of an empty park. The Christmas lights flickered on the trees. A couple passed by holding hands. They were laughing. I watched them until they disappeared around the corner. I took out my cell phone. I checked the transfers I had cancelled. $1,200 monthly. $14,400 a year for 5 years. $72,000 that Kimberly never knew came from me. She thought Robert was earning more. She thought her life worked on its own. I closed my eyes. And there, sitting on that cold bench, the memories hit like a punch. It all started 8 years ago. Kimberly had just turned 32. I was 61. She came to my house one Sunday afternoon with Robert. He was quiet, polite. He worked for an insurance company. Kimberly was in love. I saw her happy for the first time in a long time. After her difficult divorce, after years of seeing her alone, I just wanted her to smile again. "Mum, we're getting married," she told me that afternoon. I hugged her. I cried with joy. "All I want is for you to be happy, honey." She smiled. "I am, Mum. Robert is different. He takes care of me." The wedding was simple. I paid for the dress. I paid for the reception hall. I paid for the food. Kimberly asked me with embarrassment, "Mum, Robert is saving money for the apartment. We don't want to go into debt." I didn't hesitate. "Don't worry. I'll take care of it." I spent $18,000 on that wedding. She thanked me with a quick kiss. Robert thanked me with a forced smile. 6 months later, Andrea was born. Kimberly stopped working. Robert earned barely enough to pay the rent for a small apartment on the outskirts. I went to visit them every week. I brought diapers. I brought food. I brought clothes for the baby. Kimberly always received everything with a tired smile. "Thanks, Mum. I don't know what I'd do without you." One day, I arrived and found her crying. Andrea was sleeping in her crib. Kimberly was sitting on the living room floor with bills in her hands. "We can't make it, Mum. We can't make it to the end of the month." I sat down next to her. "How much do you need?" She shook her head. "I can't ask you for any more. You've already done so much." I took her hand. "Tell me how much." She looked at me with red eyes. $1,000. Just for this month. I'll pay you back. I promise." I took out my checkbook. I wrote $1,200. "Don't pay me back. Use it for the baby." Kimberly hugged me, crying. "You're the best mum in the world." But that month turned into 2, then 6, then a year. Every time I asked if they could manage on their own, Kimberly found a reason. "Andrea is sick. Robert lost a commission. The rent went up." I always said yes, because she was my daughter, because she was my granddaughter, because I wanted them to be okay. When Paula was born, things got worse. Robert asked for a raise and didn't get it. Kimberly couldn't go back to work because no one would watch the girls. "Mum, just until Paula grows up a little. I swear I won't bother you after that." I kept sending money, but it was no longer $1,200. Sometimes it was $1,500, sometimes $2,000. Christmas, birthdays, uniforms, doctors. I paid for everything, and Kimberly always thanked me, always said it was temporary, always promised it would be different soon. 2 years ago, Kimberly called me excited. "Mum, we found a beautiful apartment. It has 3 bedrooms. It's in a safe neighborhood. The girls could go to a better school." I smiled. "That's great, honey. Is Robert's income enough?" She paused for a long time. "The rent is $2,100 a month. Robert earns $2,800. We'd only have $700 left for everything else." I understood what she was asking without her saying it. "How much do you need?" She breathed deeply. "If you paid the rent, just for a while, we could use Robert's salary for the girls, for food, for everything. And when he gets something better, we'll give you back every single cent." I accepted. I called the landlord. I signed the contract in my name. I paid the deposit. I paid the first month. I paid the second. And so I continued, month after month, year after year. Kimberly never mentioned paying me back the money. Robert never got that better job. And I never said anything. Because I thought that was what a mother's love was like. I thought that was how you helped your children. But something started to change a year ago. Kimberly stopped calling me often. Before, she called every 2 days. Now, weeks went by without hearing from her. When I called, she was always busy. "Mum, I'll call you later. I'm with the girls." "Oh, Mum, I'm tired. We'll talk tomorrow." But that tomorrow never came. I stopped going to her house unannounced. The first time I did, she greeted me with a look of annoyance. "Mum, you should have called. The house is a mess." I apologized. "I just wanted to see the girls." She sighed. "Next time, let me know, okay?" Visits became uncomfortable. I would arrive and sit in the living room. Kimberly would be doing other things. The girls would be playing in their room. Robert would come home from work and barely greet me. I would stay for an hour, maybe 2, then I would leave, always with the feeling that I was in the way. One day I heard Kimberly talking on the phone in the kitchen. I was in the living room. She didn't know I could hear her. "Yeah, Alma, I know. My mum is just like that. She always shows up unannounced. She doesn't understand that we have our own life." I felt a hollow in my chest. Alma, Robert's mother, Kimberly was talking about me with her, and it wasn't anything good. I got up silently. I took my purse. I left without saying goodbye. Kimberly didn't even notice. From that day on, I waited. I waited for her to call me. I waited for her to look for me. I waited for her to ask how I was. 3 weeks passed. Nothing. Until I got that cold text message. "Mum, come over on the 25th at 12. Family lunch." And I went, with a heart full of hope, thinking that maybe things would be different, thinking that maybe they missed me. But all I found was my place occupied, my place given to another woman, my place erased. I opened my eyes. The park was still empty. The cold bit into my bones. But something inside me was burning. It wasn't anger. It was clarity. For the first time in years, I saw everything clearly. I got up from the bench. I put away my cell phone. I walked toward the bus stop. And while I waited, I knew there was no turning back. Kimberly was going to discover very soon that her perfect life was sustained by me. And when everything fell, I wouldn't be there to pick her up. I arrived at my apartment when the sun was already setting. I turned on the living room light. Everything was silent. Too silent. I took off my coat. I sat on the sofa. And there, in that solitude that used to scare me, I felt something strange. I felt peace. A bitter peace, but peace nonetheless. I made tea. I sat in front of the window. I watched the city light up little by little. Families were still celebrating. I was alone. But for the first time in a long time, that solitude didn't hurt me. It liberated me. I grabbed my cell phone. I had 3 messages, none from Kimberly. One was from my bank confirming the cancellations. Another was an advertisement. The third was from an unknown number. I opened it. "Mrs. Lopez, I'm Emily Rosales. I don't know if you remember me. I was your neighbor 10 years ago at the building on Morelos Street. I got your number from the management. I need to talk to you. It's important. Please call me." Emily. Of course I remembered her. A young woman, a lawyer, who had arrived at the building recently divorced and with a small daughter. I helped her then. I watched the girl when she had hearings. I brought her food when she didn't have time to cook. She never asked me for anything. I just did it, because that was how I was, always helping. I dialed the number. She answered on the second ring. "Mrs. Lopez." "Yes, Emily, I got your message." "Oh, Mrs. Lopez, it's great to hear your voice. I've been looking for you for months. I moved cities years ago and lost your contact. But I never forgot you. You were an angel to me at the worst time of my life." I smiled. It was a sad smile. "It was nothing, Emily. It was everything to me, and now I want to give it back to you. Mrs. Lopez, I'm a family lawyer. I have my own firm, and if you ever need legal help with anything, I'll be there. No cost. It's the least I can do. I stayed silent. Something inside me shifted. Thank you, Emily. I'll keep it in mind. Is everything okay, Mrs. Lopez? You sound different. I looked out the window. Yes, everything is changing. Well, I'm here. For whatever you need. I'll send you my card in a message. And Mrs. Lopez, take care. We hung up. I looked at the screen. Her message arrived immediately. Emily Rosales, lawyer specializing in family and estate law. I saved the contact. I didn't know if I would need it, but something told me I would. I couldn't sleep that night. I tossed and turned in bed. Memories haunted me. But they weren't Christmas memories. They were recent memories. Things I had seen, things I had heard, things I had ignored because I didn't want to believe they were true. 3 months ago, I went to Kimberly's apartment. I rang the doorbell. No one opened. I called her cell phone. She didn't answer. I tried again. Nothing. I waited outside for almost 20 minutes until I saw her arrive. She was with Alma. Both were carrying shopping bags. Bags from expensive stores, clothes, shoes, accessories. Mom, what are you doing here? Kimberly looked at me surprised, almost annoyed. I came to visit you. You weren't answering the phone. Alma smiled, an educated but cold smile. Oh, Teresa. We were shopping. Kimberly needed new clothes. I took her to my favorite stores. I looked at the bags. I looked at Kimberly. New clothes. She avoided my gaze. Yes, Mom. I just had to refresh my wardrobe. For the girls' school meetings, Alma laughed. My daughter-in-law has to look good. I always tell her that image is important. That's why I invited her. It was my gift. I nodded. I didn't say anything. But something didn't add up. Kimberly always told me she had no money, that they barely made ends meet. But there she was, with bags from stores where a dress cost $300. We went up to the apartment. Alma stayed. She made coffee. She sat in the living room as if it were her own home. She talked about her plans for the holidays. She talked about a trip she wanted to take with Robert and Kimberly. She talked and talked. Kimberly listened to her, smiling. I was there, but I was invisible. I left an hour later. Alma said goodbye with a kiss on the cheek. It was nice seeing you, Teresa. We should do this more often. But her tone said the opposite. Kimberly walked me to the door. Thanks for coming, Mum. She didn't hug me. She didn't ask me to come back soon. She just closed the door. That night I looked on social media. I found Alma's profile. It was full of photos. Photos with Kimberly. Photos with my granddaughters. Photos in the apartment I paid for. In one of the photos, Alma was hugging Andrea and Paula. The caption read, "My beautiful granddaughters. Family is everything." My granddaughters, as if they were only hers, as if I didn't exist. I kept scrolling down. There were more photos. A dinner at a fancy restaurant. Kimberly, Robert, Alma, and her husband, all smiling. Wine glasses, full plates. The caption read, "Perfect night with my favorite family." The photo was 2 months old. I didn't know anything about that dinner. No one invited me. No one told me. I closed the app. I breathed deeply. I told myself it didn't matter, that they were just photos, that maybe I was overreacting. But the truth is, it did matter, because I was being erased, little by little. Photo by photo, dinner by dinner. I was ceasing to exist for them. A month ago, I called Kimberly. I needed to talk to her. I needed to tell her how I felt. She answered, rushed. "Mom, I'm busy. What's wrong?" "Nothing serious. I just wanted to know how you are." "Fine, Mom. Everything's fine. I'll call you later, okay?" "Kimberly, wait. Can we see each other this week? I need to talk to you." She sighed. "Mum, this week is complicated. Alma is coming to stay for a few days. She's going to help me with the girls. I'll call you when she leaves." Alma again. Always Alma. "And the weekend. We're going out this weekend. Robert wants to take the girls to the water park. It's a family plan." "I'm family too." Kimberly. Silence. A long silence. Uncomfortable. "Mum, you know what I mean. It's a plan for us. The 5 of us. Don't take it personally." I hung up. Not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't speak, because the lump in my throat wouldn't let me say anything else. I cried that night. I cried like I hadn't cried since my husband died. I cried for my daughter. I cried for my granddaughters. I cried for myself, for all the years I gave, for all the love I gave, for everything that was never enough. But the next day I got up. I looked at myself in the mirror, and I made myself a promise. I wasn't going to beg anymore. I wasn't going to chase anymore. I wasn't going to beg for a place in my daughter's life. If she didn't want me there, I wouldn't be either. I opened my document drawer. I took out all the important papers: contracts, deeds, bank statements, transfer receipts. Everything was there, organized, stored, because I was always organized, always careful. The apartment contract was in my name. The additional credit cards were under my account. The transfers came from my bank. Everything, absolutely everything was under my control. And Kimberly didn't know it. She thought Robert paid the rent. She thought her card was a bank benefit. She thought her life worked by magic. I put the documents away. I closed the drawer. And I knew the moment had come. The moment to stop being invisible. The moment to let them see who really held their world together. I went to bed that night with a clear decision. I wasn't going to shout. I wasn't going to complain. I wasn't going to make a scene. I was just going to let go. I was going to withdraw my hands. And I was going to watch everything fall apart. Because what they didn't know was that their perfect house was built on me. And without me, there was nothing left. Monday morning, I woke up with a purpose I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't revenge. It was something deeper. It was justice. It was dignity. It was reclaiming what was always mine, my worth. I made coffee. I sat at the kitchen table with all my documents in front of me. Lease contract, bank statements, transfer receipts, additional cards. Everything was there, black and white. The proof that Kimberly's life depended entirely on me. I took my cell phone. I looked up Emily's number. I dialed. She answered on the 3rd ring. "Mrs. Lopez." "Emily, good morning. I need your help." There was a pause. Then her voice sounded serious, professional. "Tell me what you need. I'm here." "I need to review some legal documents, contracts, bank accounts. I want to make sure everything is in order. And I want to know how to proceed to close certain things." "Close?" "Yes. I want to cancel contracts that are in my name, but benefit another person. I want to regain full control of my assets." Emily didn't ask any more questions. "Perfect. Can you come to my office this afternoon? Say at 3 o'clock. I'll be there." I hung up. I breathed deeply. The first step was taken. I spent the morning organizing everything. I made copies of every document. I separated them by category: rent, cards, bank transfers, joint accounts. Every dollar I had invested in Kimberly's life was recorded. Every cent was documented. At 2:30, I left my apartment. I took a taxi to Emily's office. It was a modern building downtown. I went up to the 5th floor. The receptionist greeted me with a smile. "Mrs. Teresa Lopez." I nodded. "Attorney Rosales is waiting for you." Emily came out to meet me. She was no longer the young, frightened woman I had met years ago. Now she wore a business suit. Her hair was pulled back. Her eyes shone with confidence. She hugged me with genuine affection. "Mrs. Lopez, please come in." We entered her office. It was spacious, tidy. There were diplomas on the walls, law books on the shelves, a large dark wood table. She showed me a chair in front of her desk. "Tell me everything." And I told her. I told her about Kimberly, about Robert, about Alma, about the girls, about the years of sending money, about the apartment I paid for, about the cards she used without knowing where the money came from, about Christmas, about my occupied place, about my daughter's words. Just the people who really matter. Priorities. Emily listened in silence. She didn't interrupt me. She just took notes. When I finished, she put the pen down on the table. She looked directly into my eyes. "Mrs. Lopez, what do you want to do?" I didn't hesitate. "I want everything back. I want to cancel the lease. I want to close the cards. I want to stop the transfers. I want them to know that everything they have came from me. And I want to do it legally, without problems, without mistakes." Emily nodded. "Perfect. Everything you described is in your name. Legally, you have every right to cancel any benefit you granted. The apartment is under a contract in your name. The cards are extensions of your account. The transfers are voluntary. You can stop all of this whenever you want." "How long will it take?" "If we act fast, everything will be closed in a week. I'll take care of notifying the property owner. I'll cancel the cards with the bank. I'll stop the automatic transfers. And if you want, I can prepare a legal document that makes it clear that you were the one who financially supported your daughter all these years." I nodded. "Do it. Everything." Emily smiled. It wasn't a smile of joy. It was a smile of complicity, of one woman who understands another woman. "Mrs. Lopez, you were an angel to me when I needed it most. Now let me be your angel." I signed the necessary documents. Emily explained each step to me. The landlord would receive the termination notice in 2 days. Kimberly would have 30 days to vacate or negotiate directly with the owner. The cards would be cancelled in 48 hours. The automatic transfers were already stopped since Christmas Day. "What if she calls me?" I asked. "What if she complains to me?" Emily looked at me seriously. "You don't owe her any explanations. But if you want, I can be present for any conversation, as your legal representative." I shook my head. "No, this is between her and me. But I want everything to be legally protected. I don't want her to be able to say later that I left her on the street. I want it to be clear that she had time, that she had notice, that everything was done according to the law. That's how it will be." I left that office feeling different, lighter, stronger. For the first time in years, I was making decisions for myself. Not for Kimberly, not for the girls, for myself. The following days were strange. I expected Kimberly to call, to ask why her card was declined, to text me, to show up at my door. But nothing happened. Absolute silence. Wednesday. Emily called me. Mrs. Lopez, the landlord received the notification. He tried to contact your daughter. He left her a message explaining that the contract is about to end and that if she wants to stay, she must sign a new one directly with him. The rent is still $2,100 monthly. Did she respond? No. The landlord says he called 3 times, left messages, sent emails. No response. I closed my eyes. Kimberly was still ignoring reality, still believing that everything was fine, that her world was still working as always. Friday, I received a message. It was from Kimberly. Mum, there was an error with my card. Can you check it? It's not working. I didn't reply. I left the message on read. 2 hours later, another message. Mum, I really need you to check. I tried to buy groceries and the card was declined. It's urgent. I didn't reply to that either. That night she called me. I let it ring. I didn't answer. She called me 4 more times. Then she left a voicemail. Mum, I don't know what's going on. My card is not working. The bank says it's cancelled. Do you know anything? Call me, please. I deleted the message. Saturday, Emily sent me an email. Mrs. Lopez, the bank confirms that the additional cards were successfully cancelled. Your daughter no longer has access to any of your accounts. The apartment owner informed me that he will send a formal written notification to your daughter next week. Everything is going as planned. I read the email 3 times. I felt a weight in my chest. It wasn't guilt. It was fear. Fear of what was coming. Fear of Kimberly's reaction. Fear of losing her forever. But then I remembered her face at Christmas. I remembered her words. Just the people who really matter. Priorities. I remembered my occupied place. I remembered how no one asked why Grandma was standing. And fear turned into determination. I wasn't being cruel. I was being fair. For years I held her life together in silence. For years I paid for everything hoping for a thank you. Hoping for an I love you. Hoping for a seat at her table. And all I received was indifference, contempt, forgetfulness. Now it was my turn to choose. My turn to decide who deserved my time, my money, my love. And Kimberly had shown that she didn't value me, that I wasn't a priority, so I wouldn't have her as a priority either. Sunday afternoon, my cell phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered. Mrs. Lopez. It was a man's voice, serious. Yes, this is she. This is Mr. Macias, owner of the property at Liberty Avenue 482. I'm calling because your daughter is not responding to my messages. I need to confirm if she intends to renew the contract. I breathed deeply. Mr. Macias, I am no longer responsible for that contract. My daughter is an adult. She should contact you directly. I understand, but she is not answering, and I need an answer soon. If she does not renew, I need the apartment vacated before February 1st. I suggest you send the formal notification, in writing, certified. That way there is a legal record. I will do that. Thank you, Mrs. Lopez. I hung up. My hands were shaking. But I didn't regret it. This was just beginning. Kimberly still didn't know that her world was collapsing. She still didn't know that the woman she left standing at Christmas was the same one who held every piece of her life together. But she would soon know. And when that happened, I wouldn't be there to save her. I would be here, in my house, in my peace, living my life. Because I also had the right to be a priority, even if it was my own priority. A week passed, then 2. January was moving slowly, and I still hadn't heard anything from Kimberly. She didn't call, she didn't text. It was as if I didn't exist. As if cancelling her card was just a technical problem with the bank. As if the apartment notification were an administrative error. She continued living in her bubble, and I let her stay there. Because the fall would be harder. Emily kept me informed of everything. The landlord sent the certified letter. Kimberly received it. She didn't reply. The bank confirmed that she tried to use the cards several more times. All rejected. She called the bank. They told her that the main account had cancelled the extensions. They gave her my name. And even so, she didn't look for me. That hurt me more than anything. She didn't look for me to ask for explanations. She didn't look for me to ask what was happening. She didn't look for me because she simply didn't care enough. I was a problem that she preferred to ignore. But on January 20th, everything changed. It was 10 o'clock in the morning. I was having coffee when my phone rang. It was Kimberly. I let it ring 3 times before answering. "Hello? Mum?" Her voice sounded tense, controlled. "I need to talk to you." "Tell me." "Not over the phone. Can you come to my house?" "What for?" Silence, then a sigh. "Mum, please. It's important." "If it's that important, you come. I'm at my house." Another silence. Longer. "Okay. I'm coming over." She hung up. I stayed looking at the phone. I felt a knot in my stomach. I knew what was coming. I knew that she had finally discovered something. But I didn't know how much. I didn't know if she already understood the magnitude of what was happening. I called Emily. "Kimberly is coming over. I think she knows something. She wants me to go." "No, not yet. But stay close to the phone, just in case." "I'll be here." I changed my clothes. I combed my hair. I put on a little makeup. Not because I wanted to look good for her, but because I wanted to feel strong. I wanted that when she saw me, she wouldn't see a desperate mother. I wanted her to see a woman with control, with dignity. Kimberly arrived an hour later. She rang the doorbell insistently. I opened the door. She entered without greeting me. Her face was tense, dark circles under her eyes. Her hair was hastily pulled back. She wore sweatpants and an old sweatshirt. She was not the put-together Kimberly I knew. "Mum, what is going on?" She went straight to the point, no beating around the bush. "With what?" "With everything. With my card. With the apartment. The landlord sent me a letter saying I have to renew the contract or vacate. And when I called the bank, they told me that you cancelled my card. Why did you do that?" I sat on the sofa. I crossed my legs. I looked at her calmly. "Because the card was mine, not yours." She blinked. "What do you mean it was yours? It was an extension of my account." "No, it was an extension of my account. I paid for it. I always paid for it. I decided to cancel it. It's my right." Kimberly remained standing in the middle of the living room. Her face changed from confusion to anger. "And you weren't going to tell me? You weren't going to give me a warning? You didn't warn me when you left me standing at Christmas, when you gave my place to Alma, when you told me I wasn't a priority." She closed her eyes. She breathed deeply. "Mum, we already talked about that. I told you not to take it personally." "Not to take it personally." My voice rose a little. "How can I not take it personally when my own daughter tells me I'm not important?" "I didn't say that. You said you only invited the people who really matter. I wasn't on that list, so I decided you wouldn't be on mine either." Kimberly slumped into the armchair. She covered her face with her hands. "Mum, this is no time for drama. I have real problems. The landlord wants me to pay $2,100 a month or I leave. Robert doesn't earn enough. I can't pay that. Then find a cheaper apartment. She looked up. She looked at me as if she didn't recognize me. That's all you're going to say? What do you want me to say? To help me, like you've always done. I looked at her intently. Like I've always done? Kimberly, I've helped you for 8 years. I paid for your wedding. I gave you money every month. I paid the rent for your apartment. I gave you cards. I gave you everything. And you never said thank you. You never asked how I was. You never invited me to go out with you. You never made me feel like part of your family. Mum, that's not true, isn't it? When was the last time you called me just to check up on me? When was the last time you came to visit me without needing something? When was the last time you told me you loved me? Kimberly stayed silent. She opened her mouth, closed it. She had no answer. I continued. For years, I sent you $1,200 every month. Did you think Robert was the one earning more? No. It was me. I paid the rent for your apartment. Yes, the apartment where you live. The contract was always in my name. You never asked. You never wanted to know. You just received. Her face turned pale. You paid the rent? Every month? For 2 years? Because you told me it was temporary. That it was just until Robert got something better. But Robert never got anything. And you never mentioned giving me back a single dollar. Kimberly stood up. She paced back and forth. She put her hands on her head. I can't believe this. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me you were hanging out with Alma? That you went shopping together? That you dined at expensive restaurants while I ate alone in my house? Why didn't you tell me that she was your priority and I wasn't? Because I didn't want to hurt you. Well, you hurt me anyway. You hurt me worse. Because you made me invisible. Kimberly started to cry. They were not tears of sadness. They were tears of desperation, of anger, of fear. Mum, what do you want me to do? Crawl? Beg you for forgiveness on my knees? I don't want anything, Kimberly. Not anymore. Then what? Are you going to leave me on the street? No, you're going to leave yourself on the street. Because you decided that I didn't matter. Now live with that decision. She dried her tears angrily. You're selfish. You always were. You always wanted to control me. That's why Dad left. That's why no one can stand to be around you. Those words hit me like stones, but I didn't move. I didn't cry. I just looked at her. Your dad left because he was sick, and he died alone in a hospital while you were on your honeymoon. I was there. I closed his eyes. I paid for the funeral. And you? You arrived 3 days later, without tears, without guilt. You only asked if he had left an inheritance. Kimberly backed away. Her face was distraught. That's a lie. It's not a lie, and you know it. She shook her head. She grabbed her purse. She walked toward the door. Before leaving, she turned around. I'm going to fix this, without you. I don't need you. Perfect. Then don't look for me. She left. She slammed the door. I remained seated, trembling. The tears finally came out, but they were not tears of regret. They were tears of liberation. I called Emily. She already came. She already knows about the apartment and the card. How did she react? Bad. Very bad. But I didn't tell her everything. She still doesn't know about the monthly transfers. She still doesn't know how much money I really invested in her. When will you tell her? Soon. But not yet. I want her to feel the weight first. I want her to try to fix it herself. And when she can't, when she's on the edge of the abyss, then I'll show her everything. Mrs. Lopez, are you sure about this? I looked out the window. The sky was grey. It threatened rain. More sure than ever. The following days were silent. Kimberly didn't call. She didn't text. I knew she was trying to sort things out. I knew she was looking for money. I knew she was desperate. And I let her sink. On January 25th, Emily called me. Mrs. Lopez, the landlord informed me that your daughter went to see him. She asked for more time. He told her no, that he needs an answer before February 1st, or he will start the eviction process. What did she say? That she was going to get the money, that he should give her 1 more week. And he agreed. He gave her until February 5th, not 1 day more. I calculated mentally. 10 days remained, 10 days for Kimberly to discover that she couldn't sustain her life without me. 10 days for her house of cards to fall. And I would be there, not to save her, but to watch her fall. So she would learn that mothers also have limits, that love also runs out, that ignoring the person who supports you has consequences. Because this time, I wasn't going to give in. This time, I was the priority. The days passed slowly. Every morning I woke up expecting a call from Kimberly. Every afternoon I checked my phone looking for a message, but nothing came. The silence between us grew deeper, heavier, like a wound that wouldn't close. February 1st dawned cold. I was having my coffee when I received a message from Emily. Mrs. Lopez, the landlord informed me that your daughter has not paid. She hasn't given any sign. Tomorrow he will begin the legal eviction process. Any instructions from your side? I wrote quickly. None. Let him proceed as appropriate. I put away the phone. I felt a knot in my stomach. It wasn't guilt. It was anticipation. I knew that soon Kimberly would have no choice but to face me, to look for me, to admit that she needed me. That same afternoon at 6 o'clock, my phone rang. It was her. Mom? Her voice sounded broken, tired. I need us to talk. I'm listening. Not over the phone, in person. Please. I looked at the clock. Where? Can I come to your house? No. Better somewhere neutral. At the coffee shop on Juarez Avenue. The one across from the park. Tomorrow at 4. She hesitated. It can't be today. No. Tomorrow. I hung up before she could respond. It wasn't cruelty. It was strategy. I wanted her to spend the night thinking. I wanted her to feel the desperation. I wanted her to arrive at that coffee shop completely broken. February 2nd arrived with a cloudy sky. I dressed carefully. Black pants, white blouse, a grey sweater. I put on makeup. I did my hair. I wanted to look strong. I wanted that when she saw me, she knew I was fine, that I didn't need her. I arrived at the coffee shop 15 minutes early. I ordered a tea. I sat by the window. From there I could see the street. Exactly at 4 o'clock, I saw Kimberly arrive. She was alone. She walked slowly, dragging her feet. She wore the same sweatpants as last time. Her hair was down, no makeup. She looked worn out. She entered. She searched for me with her eyes. Our eyes met. She walked toward me. She sat across from me without greeting me. Thank you for coming, she said in a low voice. I nodded. I didn't say anything. The waiter approached. Kimberly ordered a coffee. We waited in silence until he left. Then she spoke. Mom, I need your help. I already know. The landlord is going to start an eviction. He says I have to pay or leave. Robert doesn't have the money. I don't either. I tried to apply for a loan. They denied me. I don't know what to do. I took a sip of my tea. I looked at her over the cup. And what do you want me to do? Pay, like before, just for a few more months, until Robert gets something better. I'm going to pay you back. I promise. You said that 2 years ago. You never paid anything back. She lowered her gaze. I know, but this time is different. This time, I will pay you. With what money, Kimberly? Where are you going to get money if you don't work? If Robert barely earns $2,800 a month? She looked up. She looked at me surprised. How do you know how much Robert earns? Because I know everything. I always knew everything. I know you couldn't afford that apartment. I know the cards you used were mine. I know every dollar you spent came from me. And you never asked. You never wanted to know. You just took. Tears began to roll down her cheeks. Mom, please. I have 2 daughters. I can't leave them on the street. Then get a job. Look for a cheaper apartment. Ask Alma for help. She's your priority, right? Kimberly wiped her tears with the back of her hand. I already asked Alma. She says she can't help me, that they also have expenses. I smiled. It was a bitter smile. How curious. When it came to shopping, she could help. When it came to dining at expensive restaurants, there was money. But now that you need real help, she disappeared. It's not fair that you say that to me. And was it fair that you left me standing at Christmas? That you gave my place to her? That you told me I wasn't a priority? Kimberly sobbed. I already apologized for that. No, you never apologized. You just said not to take it personally. She breathed deeply. She dried her face. She looked at me with reddened eyes. Fine. You're right. I was a bad daughter. I was selfish. I was ungrateful. Is that what you want to hear? Are you happy now? I don't want to hear anything, Kimberly. I just want you to understand that I also have limits, that I also get tired, that I also deserve respect. I understand. I swear I understand. But please help me this time. For the girls. They are not to blame. I felt a deep pain in my chest. I thought of Andrea, of Paula, of their little faces, of their smiles. But then I remembered that they also didn't ask about me at Christmas, that they also didn't miss me, that Kimberly was raising them so that I didn't matter. The girls have a father. They have a paternal grandmother. They have Alma, who they like so much. Let them take charge. Kimberly hit the table with her hand. Some people turned to look at us. She lowered her voice. You're selfish. You're a bad person. I can't believe you're my mother. I stood up. I left money on the table to pay for my tea. I grabbed my purse. And I can't believe you're my daughter, because the daughter I raised was grateful, was affectionate, was humble. But that daughter died, and the one in front of me is a stranger. I left the coffee shop. Kimberly yelled something at me. I didn't hear what. I just kept walking. The cold air hit my face. I felt the tears running down. But I didn't stop. I didn't look back. I arrived home an hour later. I closed the door. I collapsed onto the sofa. I cried. I cried for everything, for my lost daughter, for my granddaughters who would not know their real grandmother, for all the years I gave expecting love and only received crumbs. My phone rang. It was Kimberly again. I didn't answer. She kept calling. 1, 2, 5 times. Then the messages started. Mum, forgive me. Mum, I'm desperate. Mum, please don't do this. Mum, I need you. I read every message. I didn't reply to any of them. February 3rd, Emily called me. Mrs. Lopez, your daughter looked for me. She found my information online. She asked me to intercede with you, to beg you to help her. What did you tell her? That I am your lawyer, not hers, and that you have every right to make the decisions you deem necessary. Thank you, Emily. Mrs. Lopez, are you okay? I looked out the window. It was raining. No, but I will be. February 4th. I received a message from an unknown number. I opened it. Mrs. Lopez, this is Robert. Please talk to Kimberly. She's very upset. She's not eating. She's not sleeping. She just cries. My parents told her we can go live with them temporarily, but their apartment is very small. The girls don't have anywhere to play. Please reconsider your decision. We are family. I read the message 3 times. Then I deleted it. I blocked the number. Family. That word no longer meant anything to me, because family doesn't leave you standing at Christmas. Family doesn't tell you that you're not a priority. Family doesn't use you and then forget you. February 5th, at 9 o'clock in the morning, Emily sent me a message. The landlord started the eviction process. Your daughter has 15 days to vacate the apartment. After that, if she doesn't leave voluntarily, the police will come. I read the message. I breathed deeply, and for the first time in weeks, I felt something akin to peace. It wasn't happiness. It wasn't victory. It was justice. It was the universe putting me on my side after so many years of being on everyone's side but my own. That night, while having dinner alone in my kitchen, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked through the peephole. It was Kimberly. She had the girls by the hand, Andrea and Paula. The 3 of them were standing in front of my door. Kimberly rang again. Mum, I know you're there. Please open up. I'm not here to fight. I just want you to see your granddaughters. Talk to them. I stayed on the other side of the door, motionless, in silence. Paula began to cry. Grandma, open the door. I'm cold. I felt my heart break in 2, but I didn't open because I knew what Kimberly was doing. She was using the girls. She was playing with my emotions, and I wasn't going to fall for it. Kimberly spoke louder. Mum, if you don't help me, we're going to end up on the street. Is that what you want? For your granddaughters to sleep in a shelter? I closed my eyes. I leaned my forehead against the door. I listened to the girls cry. I listened to Kimberly plead. And I stood firm. Because this time, I wasn't going to be the savior. This time, Kimberly was going to learn that actions have consequences. After 20 minutes, they left. I heard their footsteps receding. I heard Paula's crying fade into the distance. And I stayed there, alone, crying in silence. But without opening the door. Because sometimes loving also means letting go. The following days were a silent hell. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Paula's face crying at my door. I heard her voice asking me to open up. I felt the weight of guilt crushing my chest. But I didn't give in. I didn't call. I didn't look. Because I knew if I did, everything would go back to how it was. And I couldn't go back to that place anymore. February 8th, Emily called me early. Mrs. Lopez, I need you to come to my office. Today. It's urgent. What happened? Your daughter filed a lawsuit. She's alleging family abandonment. She says that you have a moral and legal obligation to help her because she depended financially on you. I felt my blood run cold. She can do that? She can try, but it has no foundation. She is an adult. She has a husband. There is no law that obligates you to support your adult children. However, we need to prepare our defense. Come at 3 o'clock. Bring all the documents you have. I hung up. I sat on the sofa. My hands were shaking. Kimberly was suing me. My own daughter was taking me to court. The pain I felt at that moment is beyond words. It wasn't anger. It was desolation. It was the confirmation that I had lost my daughter forever. I arrived at Emily's office exactly at 3 o'clock. She greeted me with a hug. "Breathe, Mrs. Lopez. This is not going to succeed. Trust me." We sat down. Emily reviewed all the documents, contracts, receipts, transfers. Every dollar I had given was recorded. Everything was voluntary. Nothing was a legal obligation. "Look," Emily said, pointing to the papers. "Here is the proof. You gave her money of your own free will. There was no legal agreement. There was no support contract. You could stop it at any time. And that's what you did. Your daughter's lawsuit has no basis." "But she says I abandoned her." "You didn't abandon anyone. You stopped funding the lifestyle of an adult woman who has a husband and can work. That is not abandonment. That is common sense." I nodded, but the pain was still there. "When is the hearing?" "In 2 weeks, February 22nd. But before that, I will present all these documents to the judge. I will demonstrate that you more than fulfilled your role as a mother, that you helped her for years, and that she never thanked you, never repaid you. She just took." I left that office feeling worse than when I walked in. I wasn't afraid of losing the case. I was afraid of losing the last thing I had left of my daughter, although I already knew there was nothing left. February 10th. I received a call from an unknown number. It was Alma. "Teresa, we need to talk." "I have nothing to talk to you about." "Listen to me. Kimberly is destroyed. The girls are scared. Robert doesn't know what to do. This is all your fault." I felt the anger rise. My fault? My fault for having paid for her apartment for 2 years? My fault for having given her money every month? My fault for having sustained her entire life? Alma laughed. It was a dismissive laugh. "Please, if you did so much, why did you never tell her? You wanted to control her. You wanted her to depend on you. You're a manipulator. And you are an intruder. A woman who came to take my place without deserving it. Who poisoned my daughter against me. Who made her believe that I didn't matter. I didn't do anything. Kimberly realized on her own that you are toxic. That you only bring problems. That's why she prefers me." Those words pierced my soul. But I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I only answered with a firm voice. "If she prefers you, then let you help her. Let you pay her apartment. Let you give her money. Let you be the grandmother of her children. I am no longer available." I hung up. I blocked the number. I sat on the floor of my living room and cried like I hadn't cried since my husband died. I cried for my daughter. I cried for my granddaughters. I cried for myself, for the woman who always gave and never received. February 15th, 5 days before the hearing, Emily sent me a message. "Mrs. Lopez, your daughter's lawyer contacted me. He wants to negotiate. He says Kimberly is willing to withdraw the lawsuit if you agree to pay her 6 months' rent so she can relocate." I read the message 3 times. I felt the temptation. 6 months. Just 6 months, and everything would end. There would be no trial, no public scandal. We could move on, each on her own path. But then I thought of Christmas, of my occupied place, of Kimberly's words, just the people who really matter. And I knew I couldn't give in. Because if I gave in now, she would learn that she could always manipulate me, that she could hurt me, and I would always come back. I replied to the message. "Tell her lawyer no. We'll see each other at the hearing." Emily replied immediately. "Are you sure?" "Completely." February 19th, 3 days before the hearing, I received a certified envelope. It was from Kimberly. I opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a handwritten letter. "Mum, I didn't want it to come to this. I didn't want to sue you. but you left me no choice. You know I can't do this alone. You know I need help. Why are you doing this to me? What did I do to make you hate me so much? I know I made mistakes. I know I hurt you at Christmas. But do I really deserve for you to destroy me? The girls miss you. They ask about you. Andrea drew a portrait of you and put it in her room. Paula cries at night asking to see you. Don't you care? Don't you love them anymore? If you come to the hearing and testify against me, I'm going to lose everything. The judge is going to think I'm a bad daughter, that I'm an opportunist. And maybe you're right. Maybe I am. But I'm still your daughter, and they are still your granddaughters. Please, withdraw the documents. Help me one last time. I promise you that after this, I will disappear from your life if that's what you want. But don't destroy me publicly. Don't humiliate me in front of a judge. I beg you. Kimberly. I read the letter 4 times. Every word was a stab. Every sentence was a desperate plea. And for a very brief moment, I felt my resolve breaking. But then I remembered something. I remembered that Kimberly always knew how to manipulate me, always knew what to say to soften my heart, always used the girls as a shield. And this letter was exactly that. Manipulation. Emotional blackmail. A last attempt to control me. I tore the letter into pieces. I threw it in the trash. And I prepared for the hearing. February 22nd dawned grey. I dressed in a black suit. I pulled my hair back. I put on my pearl earrings. I wanted to look dignified. I wanted to look strong. Emily picked me up at 8 o'clock in the morning. Ready? She asked me. Ready? We arrived at the courthouse at 9. The hearing was at 10. We entered the waiting room, and there was Kimberly, sitting on a bench, with Robert at her side, and with Alma on the other side. When she saw me walk in, she stood up. She walked toward me. Her eyes were red, swollen. Her face was haggard. "Mum, please, you can still stop this." I looked at her without saying anything. She continued, "You don't have to do this. We can fix it outside. We can talk. We can—" Emily intervened. "Mum, please, do not speak with my client without your lawyer present." Kimberly's lawyer, a young man in a brown suit, approached. "Attorney Rosales, we still have time to reach an agreement." Emily looked at him coldly. "There is no agreement. We'll see you inside." At 10 o'clock sharp, the clerk called us. We entered the courtroom. The judge was an older man, with thick glasses and a serious expression. He asked us to sit down. Kimberly's lawyer spoke first. He presented the lawsuit. He alleged that I had financially supported my daughter for years, and that suddenly, without warning, I cut off all support, leaving her in a vulnerable situation, that she depended on me, that I had a moral obligation to continue helping her. The judge listened in silence. Then he looked at Emily. Defense. Emily stood up. She took out a folder full of documents. "Your Honor, my client, Mrs. Teresa Lopez, is an exemplary mother. For 8 years, she voluntarily helped her daughter. She paid for her wedding. She sent her money monthly. She paid the rent for her apartment. Everything documented, everything by her own free will. There was no legal obligation. Mrs. Lopez could stop that help at any time, and that is what she did." Kimberly's lawyer interrupted. "But she did it without warning, without consideration. She left a mother of 2 girls on the street." Emily smiled. "That's not true. My client cancelled the contract with 30 days' notice, according to the law. Her daughter had time to look for alternatives, to find employment, to relocate. She chose not to do so. That is not my client's responsibility." The judge raised his hand. "Enough. I want to hear from the parties." Mrs. Kimberly Lopez. Approach. Kimberly stood up, trembling. She walked toward the stand. The judge looked at her fixedly. Why are you suing your mother? Kimberly swallowed. Why? Because she always helped me. And suddenly she stopped, without explanation, without warning. Do you work? No, sir. Why not? Because I have to take care of my daughters. Does your husband work? Yes. How much does he earn? $2,800 a month. And you cannot live on that? Kimberly lowered her gaze. It's not enough for the apartment where we live. Then look for a cheaper one, or get a job. Your mother is not obligated to support you. Kimberly's face was distraught. She started to cry. The judge looked at her without compassion. You may sit down. Then he looked at me. Mrs. Teresa Lopez, approach. I stood up. I walked with my back straight. I stood in front of the judge. He studied me in silence. Why did you stop helping your daughter? I breathed deeply. Because she made me feel that I didn't matter. Because she left me standing at Christmas while giving my place to someone else. Because for years I gave everything and never received even a thank you. Because I got tired of being invisible. The judge nodded slowly. I understand. You love your daughter. Tears welled up in my eyes. With all my heart. But loving does not mean letting myself be destroyed. The judge closed his notebook. I have heard enough. I will give my verdict in 1 week. We left the courtroom. Kimberly was slumped on the bench. Robert was hugging her. Alma gave me a look full of hatred. I left the courthouse with Emily. It was raining outside, but for the first time in weeks, I was breathing. The longest week of my life began after that hearing. Every day I waited for the judge's resolution. Every night I wondered if I had done the right thing, if taking my own daughter to court had been necessary, or if it had just been cruelty disguised as justice. Emily called me every afternoon to see how I was. Mrs. Lopez, breathe. The judge saw the truth. Everything is going to be fine. But I wasn't sure what it meant for everything to be fine. Winning the lawsuit? Losing my daughter forever? What was really winning in this situation? February 26th, 4 days after the hearing, I received a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was night, almost 10 o'clock. I hesitated before answering. Hello? Mrs. Lopez. It was a woman's voice, young, nervous. Yes, who is speaking? It's Andrea, your granddaughter. My heart skipped a beat. Andrea, how did you get my number? It's on the refrigerator. Mum has it stuck up for emergencies. Grandma, I need to talk to you. I sat down. My hands were shaking. Tell me, my love, what happened? Mum cries all the time. She doesn't cook anymore. She doesn't talk to us anymore. She just lies down. Dad says you're hurting her. Alma says you're a bad person. But I don't believe it. I miss you, Grandma. Why don't you come to see us anymore? Tears began to roll down my cheeks. My love, it's complicated. It's adult stuff. But Paula asks about you every night. She says she wants you to read her stories like before. I tell her you're busy, but she doesn't understand. Grandma, don't you love us anymore? Those words broke me in two. Of course I love you. I love you with all my heart. Then why aren't you with us? Why don't you help Mum? She says we're going to lose our house, that we're going to have to go live with Dad's parents. But their house is very small. I don't have anywhere to put my things. I'm scared, Grandma. I closed my eyes. I breathed deeply. Andrea, listen to me. Your mum is an adult. She can solve her problems. Your dad, too. It's not your responsibility to worry about that. But you can help. Why don't you? Because sometimes helping isn't the best thing. Sometimes people need to learn to solve their own things. I don't understand. Stand. Someday you will understand, my love. Someday. Andrea started to cry. I miss you, Grandma. I miss you very much. I miss you too. Every day. Can we see each other? I wanted to say yes. I wanted to run to hug her. But I knew that if I did, Kimberly would use it against me. She would use it to manipulate me, to make me give in. Soon, my love. I promise you soon. Do you promise me? I promise you. We hung up. I remained seated in the darkness, crying, feeling that every decision I made cost me a piece of my soul. March 1st, exactly 1 week after the hearing, Emily called me early. Mrs. Lopez, the judge issued his verdict. You need to come to my office, now. I arrived in less than half an hour. Emily was waiting for me with an envelope in her hands. Her face was serious, but there was a sparkle in her eyes. We won. I collapsed into the chair. We won. Completely. The judge dismissed the lawsuit. He ruled that you have no legal obligation to support your adult daughter, that all the help you provided for years was voluntary, and that you could end it whenever you wanted. Furthermore, she paused. She looked at me fixedly. Furthermore? What? The judge ordered Kimberly to pay the court costs, $3,000, for having filed a baseless lawsuit. I blinked. Kimberly has to pay me? Yes, she has 30 days to do so. I felt something strange in my chest. It wasn't joy. It wasn't victory. It was emptiness. Because I had won legally, but I had lost everything else. What's going to happen now? I asked. Kimberly is going to receive the notification. She's going to have to vacate the apartment because she can't pay. She'll probably move in with Robert's parents. And you? You're going to be able to continue with your life. Free. Free. That word sounded beautiful and terrible at the same time. That afternoon, while having tea at my house, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked through the peephole. It was Robert. Alone. Without Kimberly. Without the girls. I opened the door. He was pale. Worn out. He had deep, dark circles under his eyes. Mrs. Lopez, can I come in? I hesitated. Then I nodded. Come in. We entered the living room. He sat on the edge of the sofa. I sat across from him. What do you want, Robert? He ran his hands over his face. I came to apologize. For everything. For Christmas. For not defending you. For allowing Alma to take your place. For not stopping Kimberly when she sued you. For everything. I looked at him in silence. He continued. Kimberly is destroyed. Since she received the verdict, she hasn't left her bed. She doesn't eat. She doesn't talk. She just cries. My parents say we can stay with them, but it's temporary. There is no space. Andrea has to sleep on the sofa. Paula with us. It's chaos. And what do you expect me to do? Nothing. I know I can't ask you for anything. I just came to tell you that you're right. Kimberly was wrong. I was wrong. We were all wrong. And now we are paying the consequences. I felt a knot in my throat. Why did you let Alma take my place? Robert lowered his gaze. Because my mum is insistent. She wanted to be closer to us. And Kimberly? Kimberly thought that if she pleased my mum, I would be happier. She didn't know it would hurt you so much. She left me standing. At Christmas, she told me I wasn't a priority. I know, and it was horrible. I should have said something. I should have defended you. But I'm a coward. I always have been. I looked at him. I saw in his eyes something I had never seen before. Genuine remorse. Robert, why did you never tell me that you knew I was paying for everything? He looked up surprised. How did you know I knew? Because a man who checks his accounts knows exactly how much he earns. And you knew that wasn't enough for that apartment. Robert nodded slowly. You're right. I knew it. Kimberly told me that you were helping her with the rent. She asked me not to say anything, that you wanted to do it in secret so as not to make her feel bad. I felt the anger rise. That's a lie. I never asked it to be a secret. Kimberly lied to you. Robert closed his eyes. Nothing surprises me anymore. We remained in silence for a long time. Then he stood up. I didn't come to ask you to help us again. I just came to tell you that I regret everything. And that the girls miss you. Andrea cries for you. Paula draws hearts with your name. They don't understand why Grandma disappeared. I felt my chest burning. I didn't disappear. I was erased. I know. And you have every right never to return. But if you ever want to see the girls, I'll bring them to you. Without Kimberly. Without my mum. Just you and them. I owe you that. Robert walked toward the door. Before leaving, he turned around. Mrs. Lopez, you were a better mother to Kimberly than she deserves, and a better grandmother than my daughters will ever know. Thank you for everything, and forgive me for not having valued it. He left. The door closed. I remained standing there, crying, because those words I waited for years came too late. They came when everything was already broken. March 3rd. I received a certified envelope in the mail. It was from Kimberly. I opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a check for $3,000, the court costs, and a brief note. Mum, here is your money. I hope you are happy. I hope it was worth destroying me. Don't ever look for me again. Don't ever call me again. For me, you no longer exist. Kimberly. But what hurt me the most was the signature. It didn't say, your daughter. It just said, Kimberly, as if there were no longer a bond, as if we were already strangers. I tore up the check. I threw it in the trash. I didn't want her money. It was never about the money. That night, as I watched the cities from my window, my phone vibrated. It was a message from Emily. Mrs. Lopez, Kimberly's lawyer, informed me that she moved. She went to live with Robert's parents. She vacated the apartment. There are no longer any pending legal matters. Everything is over. Everything is over. Those words should have given me peace, but they only gave me emptiness. I replied, Thank you, Emily, for everything. You're welcome, ma'am. I looked at my reflection in the window. I saw a 69-year-old woman, alone, free, but deeply wounded. No, but I will be. I put away the phone. I breathed deeply, and I knew the time had come to close this chapter, to let go, to start over. Because although I had won the legal battle, I had lost something much more valuable. But maybe, just maybe, that loss was the price of recovering myself. And maybe that was enough. 3 months passed since the trial. 3 months of silence. 3 months. Without hearing anything from Kimberly. Without hearing anything from my granddaughters. The emptiness they left was immense. Some days I woke up expecting a call that never came. Other days I sat by the phone internally begging for it to ring. But the silence continued. During those weeks, I learned something fundamental. I learned that letting go hurts more than holding on, that freedom sometimes weighs like a stone in the chest, that being alone is not the same as feeling free. But I also learned that I deserved something better, that I deserved respect, that I deserved true love, not crumbs disguised as obligation. Emily kept calling me every week. "How are you, Mrs. Lopez?" I always answered the same thing. "I'm here, surviving." And it was true. I wasn't living. I was just surviving. One day at a time, one breath at a time. But something began to change on May 15th. That day, I received a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something in me told me to do it. "Mrs. Teresa Lopez?" "Yes, this is she. This is the principal of Lincoln Elementary School. We have your number registered as an emergency contact for Andrea Lopez Marquez." My heart raced. What happened? "She's fine. Physically, yes, but we need you to come. Andrea had a strong emotional episode. She's asking for you. We tried to contact her mother. No answer. The father either. You are the next contact on the list. I'm on my way. Now." I hung up. I grabbed my purse. I ran out. I took a taxi. I gave the school address. The journey felt eternal. My mind was racing. What had happened to Andrea? Why was she asking for me? Why wasn't Kimberly answering? I arrived at the school 20 minutes later. I ran to the principal's office. The secretary showed me in immediately. The principal was waiting for me. She was a woman in her 50s, with a kind but worried face. "Mrs. Lopez, thank you for coming so quickly. Andrea is in the nurse's office. She had an anxiety attack during class. She started crying uncontrollably. The teacher couldn't calm her. She just kept repeating your name. I brought her here and she finally calmed down a bit. But she insists on seeing you. Can I go in?" "Of course." I walked toward the nurse's office. My heart was beating so fast, I thought it would pop out of my chest. I opened the door slowly, and there was my granddaughter, sitting on a cot, with red eyes, her face swollen from crying so much. When she saw me, she threw herself into my arms. "Grandma!" I hugged her with all my strength. She clung to me as if I were a life raft. She cried on my shoulder. I cried too. "I'm here now, my love. I'm here." We stayed like that for a long time, until her sobs calmed down, until her breathing normalized. I gently pulled her away. I wiped her tears. I stroked her hair. "What happened, Andrea?" She lowered her gaze. "I miss our house. I miss my room. I miss everything. At Dad's parents' house, there's no space. I sleep on the sofa. Paula cries every night. Mum is not the same anymore. She's just sad. And today the teacher asked us to draw a happy family, and I couldn't, because we're not happy anymore. And I started crying, and I couldn't stop, and I just wanted you to be here." The pain I felt at that moment is indescribable. I hugged my granddaughter again. "I'm sorry, my love. I'm so sorry for everything you're going through. Why don't you visit us anymore? Why does Mum say you're mean?" "I'm not mean, Andrea. It's just, sometimes adults have problems that children don't understand. You still love us." I looked into her eyes. "I love you, more than anything in this world." "Then why aren't you with us?" I didn't know what to answer. How do you explain to a 7-year-old girl that her mother erased me from their lives? That she used me and discarded me? that I had to step away so as not to die inside. It's complicated, my love. The principal entered. Mrs. Lopez, can you stay with Andrea until someone from her family arrives? Of course. We spent the next hour together. I bought her a juice from the cafeteria. We talked about her classes, about her friends, about her drawings. She told me she wanted to be a veterinarian, that she loved dogs, that she dreamed of having one someday. I listened to every word, treasuring it in my heart. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Robert arrived. He walked in rushed, sweaty, apologizing. Sorry, I was in a meeting. I left my phone on silent. I didn't see the calls. The principal explained what had happened. Robert listened with a worried face. Then he looked at me. Thank you for coming, Mrs. Lopez. Truly. I nodded. Andrea didn't want to let go of me. She clung to my hand. Grandma, can you come visit us? I looked at Robert. He nodded slowly. The girls can see you whenever they want. Kimberly doesn't have to know. I don't want secrets, Robert. Then I'll talk to her. But the girls need you. It was clear today. We left the school together. Robert was holding Andrea's hand. I walked next to them. We arrived at the parking lot. Before getting into the car, Andrea hugged me once more. I love you, Grandma. I love you too, my angel. They left. I remained standing there, watching the car drive away, and something inside me shifted. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't reconciliation. It was clarity. My granddaughters were not to blame. They didn't deserve to pay for their mother's mistakes. They needed me, and I needed them. That night, I called Emily. I need your legal advice. Tell me. Can I request visitation rights with my granddaughters without having to reconcile with Kimberly? Emily was silent for a moment. Yes, legally, grandparents have the right to request visitation if they demonstrate that it is in the best interest of the minors. But that means another trial, another legal battle. I don't care. My granddaughters need me, and I'm not going to abandon them. Then let's begin. The following weeks were intense. Emily prepared all the documentation. We requested formal visitation rights. Kimberly received the notification, and as expected, she strongly objected. My mother has no right to see my daughters, her lawyer declared at the preliminary hearing. She abandoned us, sued us, left us on the street. The judge, the same one who had seen the previous case, looked at her sternly. Ma'am, your mother did not abandon you. You are an adult. What is at issue now are minors. And according to the school reports, Andrea had an anxiety episode asking to see her grandmother. That tells me that the girls have a bond with her. Kimberly paled. That was an isolated incident. It was not, Emily intervened. She presented the school report. She presented the principal's testimony. And then she presented something I didn't expect. Letters. Drawings. Andrea had been secretly writing to me. Letters she never sent. Drawings with me in them. Everything kept under her pillow, according to what Robert told Emily. The judge reviewed every document. Then he looked at Kimberly. Your daughter clearly needs her grandmother, and you cannot deny her that out of personal resentment. But, ma'am, I am going to order supervised visitation. Mrs. Lopez may see her granddaughters twice a month, 4 hours each visit, in a neutral place. And if in 3 months we see that everything is going well, the visits may be unsupervised. Kimberly started to cry. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You are using your daughters as a weapon against your mother, and I will not allow that. The girls have a right to have a grandmother. Period. I left that courthouse feeling something I hadn't felt in months. hope. The first visit was June 10th in a public park, with a social worker present. I arrived 30 minutes early, nervous, anxious, and then I saw them arrive, Andrea and Paula. They ran toward me, they hugged me. We all cried together. We spent 4 hours playing, laughing, sharing. I bought them ice cream. I read them stories. I told them stories about when their mum was a child. And for the first time in a long time, I felt complete. Kimberly came to pick them up. We saw each other from a distance. We didn't speak. We only exchanged glances. Hers full of resentment, mine full of sadness. But her hatred no longer mattered to me, because I had recovered the most important thing, the love of my granddaughters. The months passed, the visits became routine, then the judge authorized unsupervised visits. I picked up the girls, I took them to my house, we cooked together, we watched movies, we talked about everything. They told me their dreams, their fears, their joys, and I treasured each and every moment. Kimberly and I never spoke again. There was never reconciliation. There was never forgiveness. But I no longer needed it. Because I learned something fundamental in this process. I learned that you can love someone and still walk away. That you can be a mother without letting them destroy you. That you can let go without stopping loving. Today, 1 year after that terrible Christmas, I feel at peace. I live alone. But I am not lonely. I have my granddaughters. I have my dignity. I have my freedom. Kimberly rebuilt her life. She got a job. Robert did too. They moved into a small but decent apartment. She still doesn't speak to me. And that's fine, because I no longer expect anything from her. Last night, while Andrea was helping me make cookies, she asked me something. "Grandma, why don't you and Mum talk anymore?" I looked at her. I saw her curious little eyes, her innocence. And I decided to be honest. Because sometimes, my love is not enough. Sometimes people hurt each other so much that they can no longer be together. But that doesn't mean we stop loving each other. It just means we love differently, from a distance. You still love Mum. I will always love her because she is my daughter. But I also love myself. And sometimes, loving yourself means walking away from those who hurt you. Andrea thought for a moment. I love you, Grandma. And I love you, my angel. And that will never change. That night, when the girls left, I sat by the window. I looked at the stars, and for the first time in a long time, I smiled. Because I had lost my daughter, but I had found myself. I had lost my place at her table, but I had recovered my place in the world. I had lost her love, but I had gained my dignity. And I understood that sometimes losing is the only way to win. My name is no longer hers. I am no longer Kimberly's mother. I am no longer the grandmother who gives money. I am no longer the invisible woman. Now I am Teresa Lopez, a 69-year-old woman. A woman who learned that self-love is not selfishness, that setting boundaries is not cruelty, that letting go is not abandoning. I am a free woman, a woman at peace, a woman who chose her own happiness after years of choosing the happiness of others. And if I could go back to that Christmas, to that moment when I stood there watching my place occupied, I would do exactly the same thing, because that humiliation was my awakening. That betrayal was my liberation. That pain was my rebirth. My name is no longer hers. My story is just beginning.